is a step too far. Beheading American journalists is a step too far. Killing Coptic Christians, 21 on the beach in Libya, is a step too far. All of this is horrific.
National Security Advisor Susan Rice, last month speaking with Charlie Rose, the video courtesy of Bloomberg, discussing the barbaric acts ISIS has committed. We have seen mass beheadings, women sold into slavery, and the burning to death of some victims, all at the hands of ISIS, as this terror group continues to reach new levels of depravity. Prompts this question: is there a brutal logic behind these horrible tactics? For more on ISIS, we welcome in author Erick Stakelbeck. He is the author of the book ISIS Exposed: Beheadings, Slavery, and the Hellish Reality of Radical Islam. Erick joins us from Newsmax, New York today. Erick, thanks for your time. Why this level of, and we're so glad to have you, Erick, but why this level of brutality from ISIS?
You know, it's interesting in that soundbite you played, Congressman. Susan Rice says that that's going too far, beheading and massacring people. I would say so. Maybe the Obama administration is starting to catch on that ISIS is the most vicious terror movement in memory, really, Congressman. At the end of the day, they're carrying out these vicious attacks, the beheadings, the burnings, enslaving women and children, carrying out openly genocidal campaigns against Christians and religious minorities in Iraq and Syria. They're doing it, number one, because it is part of their ideology. But number two, it is great propaganda value for them, Congressman. Look, to you and I, we are repulsed by what ISIS is doing, but there are a growing number of folks, especially here in the West, the U.S., the Europe, who see what ISIS is doing, see the carnage, and they are actually attracted to it. So when ISIS lines up 21 Coptic Christians on the beach in Libya and brutally beheads them, there's a 6-6 segment of the Muslim world right now that is actually attracted to that kind of violence.
And Erick, I understand it that ISIS has a handbook, really a manual, that outlines atrocities and the whole way you force children into terror training camps. How much does this ISIS handbook have to do with the brutality?
You know, Congressman, I detail that handbook in the book. I include excerpts from it that are really shocking. It definitely influences what ISIS is doing right now. In that handbook, they say that slavery is okay. It is okay to enslave non-Muslim women and children. It's okay to, and it's sanctioned by Islam in their view, to enslave anyone they defeat, and to kill, not only enslave, but to murder any army, any women, children that they defeat. They take the spoils of war. That's laid out in this handbook. The legality of everything from their beheadings to the various horrific, atrocious acts they carry out, including genocide against Christians and Jews and Yazidis and other religious minorities. It's all laid out in this ISIS handbook, and it absolutely has an effect on their behavior.
And Erick, you have also written that the goal is that ISIS has a plan to destroy America from within. And I don't know if they put a time limit on this. Tell us more about what you wrote about this master plan from ISIS.
Congressman, a few things here. Number one, in terms of America, remember at least 180 U.S. citizens have gone to Iraq and Syria to join this ISIS caliphate, including, by the way, 3,500 Europeans at least. That's number one. But number two, the ultimate ISIS strategy, and why everyone watching this show, every American should be concerned, was laid out 15 years ago, Congressman, if you can believe it, in an Al-Qaeda manual published back in 2000. Al-Qaeda laid out a 20-year plan for global domination. Now, it had 7 phases, did this plan, Congressman. Right now, we are in the 5th phase. Al-Qaeda said between the years 2012 and 2016, we want to establish a caliphate. Well, guess what? That's exactly what ISIS did last year. We now have a caliphate in the middle of the Middle East. Now, the next phase, Al-Qaeda laid out to take place between the years 2016 and 2020 is what they call total confrontation. Total confrontation with the West. And hey, we're in 2015 right now, Congressman, and it looks awfully a lot like we are moving towards that total confrontation, a brewing confrontation, a gathering storm that President Obama does not want to acknowledge even exists.
Eric, we have a little less than 3 minutes remaining, and I want to talk. You cited Al-Qaeda, and we have reports now that Boko Haram has pledged, in essence, allegiance or an alliance with ISIS. I'm curious on these different groups, and are they still distinct, or have they become a monolith, a kind of Islamic terror incorporated with all these different groups now pledged to the same thing and working on the same page?
Congressman, my fear is this is moving towards a monolithic movement. Look, ISIS is such a beast, literally and figuratively. They've conquered 35,000 square miles of territory in the heart of the Middle East, an area the size of Great Britain. They're attracting thousands of Westerners, Congressman, as I mentioned. So ISIS is growing. Success breeds attraction. Yes, and remember, ISIS came out of Al-Qaeda. They came out of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, who we had defeated, by the way, in 2007, 2008. President Obama pulled troops out of Iraq, and now we have what we have right now with ISIS. But other jihadist groups around the world are seeing the just galvanizing, unprecedented success of ISIS, and they're being drawn to it, Congressman. As you mentioned, Boko Haram, the vicious Nigerian jihadist group, pledges allegiance. We have a group in Sinai in Egypt pledging allegiance. Libya, a great foreign policy victory for President Obama. Many groups in Libya now pledging allegiance to ISIS. Algeria, some of the Pakistani Taliban. So we're seeing this galvanizing movement. At the end of the day, Congressman, the big one, and God forbid this happens, would be if Al-Qaeda and ISIS buried the hatchet and united. Right now, they're still fighting each other. They're competing to be the top dog in the jihadist world. But if Al-Qaeda and ISIS could put aside their differences and unite, we have a real problem on our hands.
I want you to amplify something in about the 40 seconds we have left, Eric, and that is the appeal to disaffected American youth. We're going to see more of that via social media?
We are, absolutely. ISIS is so social media savvy, Congressman. I outline this in 5 chapters of the book. I talk about the threat to America. The FBI director just last month said that there are ISIS-related investigations going on in all 50 U.S. states right now, including Alaska and Hawaii. That is astounding. The barbarians are not just at the gates, Congressman, they're inside the gates.
And Erick Stakelbeck, we thank you very much. The name of the book is ISIS Exposed: Beheadings, Slavery, and the Hellish Reality of Radical Islam. For more on the terror threat that ISIS represents and its rise to power, you can also get our book, Rise of ISIS, a threat we cannot ignore, for a deeply discounted price, plus Newsmax special report, Losing the War on Terror, free when you go to newsmax.com/terror threat.